We're predominantly a cow-calf operation. We raise limousine beef cattle, but we're doing a little bit of grain farming as well. Allan comes more from a grain farming background, and that's where his interests lie, so we're trying to do a little more of that. My family's been doing cover crops for a few years, independently of these programs, but this is the first year that we've been part of the program. But cover crops in general, we really like and believe in. I think there's a lot of benefits to them.
This year we have about 155 acres stretched across 3 different parcels. Each of them kind of doing a little different thing, I guess, on each particular piece. On this field here, we're looking at a turnip, radish, and then winter rye mix on this one. On another field we have a straight winter rye mix, and then on the last field we have a winter wheat mix. Straight seeding on that one. The winter wheat came from a local farmer. Other seed that we've got in the past has come from Lake Bronson Elevator. We've also had seed ordered in from CHS Lake Bronson too, and that's pretty much sums up the cover crops. Yeah, the rye we actually had cleaned and then kept over from what we had combined and then reseeded that again. We did that with our oats crop this year, is cleaned seed from last year and seeded that in for our grain oats, and then did that with the rye as well and then reseeded that for the cover crop. So yeah, it works all well. It's one more step in the process, but as long as you're ahead of the game, I guess, and have your seed in to get cleaned, because you have to line it up with the elevator and make sure they have the proper screens in and they're able to take your grain at the time. So as long as you're a few steps ahead in the process, then it works all fine. This year we ended up working back our fields, and then we used a spin spreader, spread out the seed, and then covered that back up, incorporated it back in, worked it back in, and then we ended up using a roller, rolling that field, this one here, and then another piece, rolled them back in. So then we left the option if we wanted to hay that winter wheat in the spring next year. So we have the rocks taken care of. This field here has lighter soil, so Danika, we didn't actually work this one back with the turnip and radish mix because of how shallow we need the seed, that we didn't cover the seed by working it back. We just took the roller over it and squished it into the ground.
It's really nice to have the option for fall grazing for cattle. That's a big one for us. We've got 200 cattle, and so you just never know what the summer is going to be like as far as rainfall and what the pastures are going to be when you get to this time of year. Usually you're looking at starting to feed cows already about this time, and just having the option to have a cover crop, something for fall grazing, even if it stretches out 2 weeks, that's a big deal. That's 2 weeks that you're not having to feed 200 head of cattle. In the past, we've done different cover crops, and we've had such great growth from it that we've actually brought additional groups of cattle onto those pieces to make sure that it doesn't go to waste. This year wasn't, we didn't get too much out of it as far as grazing goes, just because Mother Nature didn't cooperate. We didn't really get it seeded quite when we wanted to. We didn't have enough moisture in the ground after it was seeded. Had a little bit of an early frost that hurt it, didn't have enough heat. So all of those things kind of snowballed, and we didn't get the growth that we wanted. Plus this was our first year of doing a turnip and radish mix, and it turns out the deer really like that. So we've been feeding about 100 head of deer every night since this has been out here, and it just really never had a chance to grow. So there's just so many different things that go into it that sometimes you don't realize, or you maybe don't think about ahead of time. And so we know better for next year. And then of course there's always Mother Nature's part in it that, may help you, may hurt you. So as far as the grazing goes, it got us a couple days of grazing, which is nice. On a good year, I've really seen it improve the condition of the cows and the calves both. So there's that. This year, we didn't get the grazing benefits that we were hoping for, but I think there's still something to be said for what the cover crop does for the quality of the soil, adding organic matter to the soil to help out with nutrients and moisture retention and just reducing erosion. So, having something that's multifaceted like that, that's a win for, for us and our labor and our stocked up feed, a win for the cattle and a win for the ground is, I think, all you can ever hope for. So when it works, it's great. And when it doesn't, it's still not a loss.
I guess each year has been a different set of weather challenges. Last year being very wet after things were seeded. So we had a lot better crop last year. Seemed like, I guess it made its way through that, and kind of what was there held on and what didn't drown out. So this year we seeded right before rain. Thought we did, set ourselves up really well. Had about half-inch rain right after we seeded, so we were happy, and then didn't really get any rain after that, so that wasn't enough to bring it through. Yeah, I mean, last year we kind of had everything, with being really wet, and then the early pile of snow, and melted off, and things were not, it was just, every year just seems to be something different. So, you just try to do your best, and hopefully it sticks, so.
I think it's just worthwhile to look into. I think that, when you're a little bit slower in the winter and you've got some time to sit down and plan ahead for the next year, at least like sit down and run some numbers and look at what it would take. It's certainly not something that you want to be trying to probably do as you're trying to harvest and do all these other things as the year goes on. It seems like there's never enough time when you're in, any time from spring to fall. You just don't have time to stop and try to figure out something new, or try to say how you're going to incorporate it, or any of those things. But if you've planned for it ahead of time and you've sat down and looked at, different alternatives, we've looked at a lot of different cover crops to use and which would be best on which piece of ground, and which are going to be best for the cattle, and, which are areas that are adjacent to a water source where we can graze, which are on fields that we can't graze. There's so many different ways to look at it and different options. But if you don't plan ahead for it, I mean, it would have been just way too easy to just be like, no, we'll try it next year. And then next year you don't plan for it and you're in the same boat. But if you take a little bit of time and plan ahead of time, then, you've got a better chance of seeing it through and getting to experience the benefits of it.